Hi, I wanted to talk about the signs and characteristics where you might find yourself in an abusive relationship, so that you can understand what they are in advance, or if you find there are things in your relationship that are difficult for you. You can see if some of these behaviours might be unhealthy or in this case abusive. So I started writing out a list, and that list started off as 10 and then it grew to 20 and then to 30. So I actually split it into three. Those three categories are behavioural abuse, where it's characteristics about how they behave, what they do, their actions, and also physical behaviours, but it's all about them actually doing something. The second is communication behaviours or communication. This is all about what they're saying directly. And the third is psychological, which is basically how they make you feel, or how you feel because of what they're doing. And it's all very much about what you trying to change the way that you're thinking, basically. So this video I will talk firstly or about behavioural abuse, and then I'll go into the other two in the other videos. So the first thing, and these are all, by the way, my experiences that I had. So there may be variations based on what you feel or what others have as well, but this is from my experience. So the first is controlling behaviour. The abuser basically wants to, always feels they need to be in control of everything. That's in control of who you're seeing, where you're going, what you're doing, and even could be anything about trying to take control, which could be around money, trying to take control of where things are in the flat, if you're living together, trying to take control of chores, and whether it's cleaning or washing or all of this, it's all basically seizing that control. For me, it was a lot about all of those things. It actually went a few stages further, whereby on a particular occasion she wrote down what I needed to say to my family, because I wasn't allowed to say certain things. So when I used to speak to them on the phone, we spoke in advance about what I could and couldn't talk about. And then on one occasion, she actually wrote out a script of what I should be saying, telling you who you should hang out with. I used to do some activities, and I had to tell her in advance who I was doing that with. She would say if there was someone that she didn't like, and therefore I had to promise that that person wouldn't be invited again. When I went to see my therapist, she actually, or when I started seeing a therapist, she wanted to choose my therapist. She got very upset when I decided on myself to go, and she got very upset. And that actually continued to when I had the therapy. She wanted to know exactly what we spoke about. And the last part of that is, for me at least, is she would say, I would set you free. And that basically shows almost, I didn't understand at the time, but like I was in prison, that she had full control over me and that she could set me free if she wanted to. And she would often say that to me, and I really didn't understand what she meant. The second part is screaming, shouting, and fighting. At least on my case, it was on a regular basis. It started off every week, and then it became every day. Abusive relationships get worse and worse as they go on. They don't start off abusive. They start off with something and you might think, oh, that's a bit weird, but I'll let it go. And then it will just continue to increase and increase and increase in frequency. So from my relationship, it started off with her getting really angry and screaming and shouting. And as the relationship went on, it became less screaming and shouting and more threatening, and saying, you know, oh, I'm leaving, and packing her stuff and actually putting it in the car, and then hanging around long enough for me to basically feel guilty about it and tell her to come back. And all of these arguments would often be in the car, in closed environments. The third thing is love-hate. So 1 minute she's really loving and caring and thoughtful and happy, and the next minute, without notice, could be something I say or do, or a trigger of some sort, and she'd get really angry, really upset, wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't tell me what was going on, and it sort of got to a point where I didn't actually know who I was going to wake up to on a given in a given morning. Was I going to find the happy girlfriend, the angry girlfriend, the stressed girlfriend, the sick girlfriend? But there was very much either I was going to get lots of love or lots of hate. The fourth one is isolation. So that involves saying who I could hang out with, who our friends were. She didn't have many friends. She actually lost nearly all of them during the relationship for one reason or another. Her main goal for me was, or what she did with me was, she very quickly told me, oh, you can't see your girlfriends alone, or certain girls at all, even if there's nothing between us. If she felt some sort of threat, that something would be revealed, that I would find out who she was. So she wanted to isolate me from as many people as she could. She had a lot of illnesses and sicknesses that she had, particularly towards the end of the relationship. I think every single day there was something wrong with her, and that was all just to keep me with her and not with other people, and keeping me in that sort of bubble. I would have to, like I say, give lists or tell her who I was hanging out with. And actually it sort of grew to me being isolated even from my family, because I was unable to speak freely to a lot of people. And she told me that in order for the relationship to work, I couldn't tell other people about the relationship or the problems that we had. So she wanted to do that. Even my therapist, she cut me off from by saying that every time I came back, I felt more uncertain about the relationship, and I agreed with her, and I also isolated myself from that too. The fifth one is creating a feeling of fear. It can be physical, it can be psychological, it can be emotional. That fear, I think mostly the fear started, I think, with the arguments, just being fearful of getting into more arguments and the consequences of those, of being stuck in them for hours, her getting angry, me being angry, or me being upset about it, and basically fearful of when or what was coming next. Then it sort of developed into, I remember at some points she would be so mad she would actually push me, and I remember thinking, well, you know, if she actually hits me, I used to say, you know, just you know, if you want to hit me, just hit me, because I thought in my mind that if she hit me, then it would be physical, and that would be an abusive relationship, and then I would leave immediately. I didn't recognise that abusive relationship is not just physical, it's emotional, it's psychological. She never actually physically hit me, but she pushed me. She used to play fight with me and kind of punch me in a playful way, but quite hard, kind of showing me like who's boss. And obviously I wouldn't do anything back because she's a girl and I don't want to be too tough or rough on her. She used to pretend to strangle me. She used to put her hands around my neck and pretend to strangle me and say, "Oh, if I do this now, no one will ever know." And I think I didn't really realise until I think when I couldn't break up with her. I think it was at that point that I realised I was afraid of her. And I think when we even to this day, I'm actually terrified of her. I think it's a very common thing that once you realise you want to break up, that's the hardest part, is having the courage to do that. And I didn't have that. I couldn't. I was too scared of her to break up with her, and I wanted her to break up with me, which is what eventually happened, luckily. The sixth one is them playing the victim all the time. So my abuser had medical issues all the time. I think in the last 6 months, there was always something wrong with her, whether it was, I don't know, it was her tooth or her stomach or her foot or headaches. There was always something, and it would always she didn't go to work for 3.5 weeks. She kind of conditioned me that I needed to take care of her in a really crazy way, like really be there 24/7, because that's what was important to her, and that's how she was brought up in her family, and that I needed to do that, and that was something I was lacking, whether I was or wasn't. That's what she was telling me. So that was one side of playing the victim. The other side of playing the victim was that she was always psychologically saying, "Oh, this person did this to me, that person did that to me, her boss is doing this to her, her family's doing that to her, it's so unfair, her friends have just decided to not talk to her anymore, then she found out through this way or that way, and everyone in the whole world is against her, and she's the innocent person, and she doesn't understand why, and everyone's being so bad to her." So that's the other side of being the victim as well. And then when she was the victim, for whatever reason, and particularly if it was caused by myself, she would burst into tears. She would then go and sit in a corner somewhere. She wouldn't let me near her. She wouldn't even look at me. She would tell me to leave her alone, don't touch me, don't come near me, making me feel really guilty that I had done something when actually it might have been a trigger or a lot of other things. But she really wouldn't let me calm her down or get anywhere near her. And it sort of amplified this victim mentality. And the seventh one is money issues, or controlling money, or wanting money or needing money. She told me very early on she had money issues, that where she was, some people treated her badly with money and stole a lot of money from her, and she suffered a lot because of money, and I think as a result she told me she had a lot of money issues, money problems, and had no money. Even though she was working full time, I was the one that had to pay for everything all the time. and she would, like whenever I would want to do something that I want to do, she would say, well, look, I don't want to do that. Like if we wanted to go on holiday, I wanted to go away, and I understood she couldn't pay for it, so I offered to pay. And then she would just say, well, you know, I'm happy being alone, and on my own, and I don't need to come. And it almost made me feel very guilty even to go on holiday and to pay for her. And then when I said, you know, sometimes, you know, I couldn't afford things or I didn't want to pay for things, she'd be like, yeah, but you spend all your money on the holidays or on these big things, but you won't pay for this, or you won't pay for that, or you won't pay for the other. I don't understand you. You make me feel like, she used to say she'd never been treated like this before, that someone was so stingy with money, even though I was paying for everything, and that she couldn't be in a relationship with someone like that. And then I think towards the end of the relationship, I got some insurance money for a problem that I had, and because she helped me with getting the money, she then said that she was entitled to get half of that money, and while I felt that there was no way she should be entitled to it, I felt bad for her, because she used to tell me she had no money and no savings and no this and no that, and I kind of just wanted to help her out. And so I remember offering her a little bit of that money, and then she would be like, no, actually I thought I deserve half of it. And when someone that you love or you care about tells you this stuff, and you just think, well, I could argue and I could do this and I could do that and I could try and say what I think, but this is all just going to end badly, and for what it is, I might as well just give it to her. So I ended up giving her half of that money, and then her reminding me afterwards that it was my decision to give her that money because I felt that she deserved it, when actually that wasn't true. And even when we broke up, she had that sense of entitlement that, you know, that she didn't see why she had to move out, or she had to do this, or she had to do that, even though the flat or the assets or whatever it was belonged to me. She didn't know why I would keep whatever belonged to me. She felt she deserved it. Okay, the next one is keeping everything behind closed doors. So that's basically stopping. She stopped me from seeing my friends, my family, my therapist, as I already spoke about. All the fights would happen when no one was around. If people were around, she would tell me to be quiet and to not discuss it now, or to go out for a walk and we can discuss it there. She would get very almost shy even, or embarrassed to have any discussion in public. It had to be in a very quiet or a place where no one was around, mostly indoors or in a car. She used to add another point of everything behind doors. She used to take my Facebook and Instagram account and basically post photos there, give me the phone and ask me to write the comments on my accounts, just to keep the illusion. It was all about keeping an illusion that everything was happy, everything was great, everything was okay. And so always to keep that illusion up, and that's I think why everything had to be kept behind closed doors, and why I was stopped from telling people about it. The ninth one is sabotaging. So she would always sabotage whatever was going on. The more nice or great thing it was, whether it was a weekend trip, whether it was going for a massage, whether it was going on a holiday, she would sabotage it. It could be at the start of the trip, it could be in the middle of the trip, it could be at the end of the trip, it could be a short trip, a long trip, but whatever it was, whenever a good thing would happen, she would start an argument for no reason about something completely unrelated, or just something I'd say which had no connection to anything, and she would get angry and furious and mad and have these conversations and arguments, but she would always sabotage it. She could never enjoy or just tell herself, just to enjoy that moment. She always felt she didn't deserve things. She always used to say, I deserve more than this, I deserve better. The 10th one is 2 personalities. So I always felt, similar to the love-hate, that whenever we went out, she used to show one personality to the world and a different personality to me. And the world would get the loving, the happy, the caring, the fun person that everyone loved, that could talk to everyone in the room, light up the room. And I would get all the arguments, the pain, the why are you doing this, all of the abusive side. So that was often very difficult, and I used to always think, why do they get all the love and the happiness and I get all of the sad and upset girlfriend or version of her. So that basically summarizes the 10 behavioural abuse characteristics. If you recognize any of those in yourself or in your relationships, or if you weren't aware of what those characteristics were, I hope you find that helpful to really understand that these behaviours are not okay, they are not normal, they are not healthy, and if you have a lot of them, it's a very, very bad and toxic mix. When I started watching these videos about what abusive relationships were, I used to start off thinking, I'm not in an abusive relationship, it wasn't like that. And then I'd watch it and I'd realise, she did that, she did that, she did that. And 9 times out of 10, she did everything on this list. So be aware and take the steps and to leave it if you can, recognise these patterns early on, and share this video with others who you feel might be in abusive relationships. Thank you.